Rhaenyra has been betrayed, Sheepstealer's arc has been completely flipped, and a massive devastating loss has occurred in the Battle of the Gullet. Season 3 of House of the Dragon kicked off with the very battle that all of Season 2 spent setting up, and this episode delivered an incredible payoff to that season-long build-up. Episode 1 starts with the exact same intro from Season 2, which honestly surprised me a little. In Season 1, we had a unique intro, and Season 2 gave us a completely different one, representing the changing story. However, this intro only had very minor changes, focusing on the events of Season 2, though the final title screen looked slightly different. Perhaps, starting from the next episode, we will see a brand new intro for Season 3, because as I mentioned, the entirety of Season 2 was simply setting up the Battle of the Gullet, which we witness in this very episode. Right after the intro, we meet Sheepstealer, who, true to his name, is doing exactly what you would expect, stealing sheep. Rhaena approaches him and successfully claims him. Now, while this is undoubtedly a dream come true for Rhaena, the showrunners have introduced a massive twist to the source material. In George R.R. Martin's book Fire and Blood, which inspires this show, Sheepstealer was one of the wild dragons claimed by a young girl named Nettles, who fed him mutton every single day to win him over. In contrast, Rhaena Targaryen does not get her dragon until much later in the books, and it is a hatchling from an egg, which does not even participate in the Dance of the Dragons. To make things even more fascinating, instead of someone bringing sheep to claim Sheepstealer, the exact opposite happens here. Sheepstealer actually brings a sheep directly to Rhaena. So, as you can see, the book's storyline for Nettles has been completely merged with Rhaena Targaryen's character. Now, we have to see how much this massive deviation will alter Rhaena's future story, because in the books, the fates of Nettles and Rhaena were vastly different, and more importantly, what impact will this change have on Sheepstealer's overall arc? So, after Rhaena flies off on Sheepstealer without a license, we cut to King's Landing, where Aemond arrives and immediately puts a sword to the throat of poor Grand Maester Orwyle. Honestly, anyone in Aemond's position would do the same upon discovering Aegon's disappearance. After all, Aegon was bedridden from Dragonfire in the previous season, and Grand Maester Orwyle was the one treating him. Aemond had no idea that Larys Strong was also helping Aegon recover, but now Aemond has discovered that Larys helped Aegon escape. Aegon's absence from King's Landing is a massive cause of concern for Aemond, because for Aemond to fully secure his rule, Aegon's demise is essential. Aegon's disappearance is a major threat to Aemond, and to Rhaenyra as well, because even if Aemond wins this entire Dance of the Dragons, his brother Aegon would still technically be the rightful king on the throne. Plus, Aemond is still facing the heavy threat of Rhaenyra's formidable dragons. Next, we see Aegon alongside Larys Strong, who have been captured by the men of House Staunton. Now, House Staunton has no intention of letting Aegon go, because in the Battle of Rook's Rest last season, Aegon's faction, the Greens, killed the Lord of House Staunton. And now, thanks to Larys' actions, they are transporting Aegon directly to Dragonstone, straight to Rhaenyra. Aegon's arc is shaping up to be extremely interesting this season, even though he is currently being taken to Dragonstone. Rhaenyra herself is planning to leave Dragonstone in just 2 days. So, will these two siblings actually cross paths? But regardless of the circumstances, you have to respect Aegon, because even when put on the spot, he refused to bow down to Rhaenyra's name. Speaking of Rhaenyra, remember how last season ended with Alicent striking a deal with her, promising to open the gates of King's Landing as soon as Aemond and Vhagar fly out to Harrenhal. Acting on that promise, Rhaenyra raises this during her council meeting, but predictably, no one on her council trusts it. After all, how much can you really trust a promise made by your enemy? But Rhaenyra made a massive mistake by sending out messages to everyone that they are moving out toward King's Landing. On the other hand, as soon as Alicent reaches King's Landing, she realizes her grand plan has completely failed. At the end of last season, she had promised Rhaenyra that along with surrendering King's Landing, she would deliver the head of her son, Aegon. But with Aegon escaping King's Landing, Rhaenyra's claim to the throne is in serious jeopardy, because as long as Aegon lives, the threat of rebellion will always remain. Yet, Alicent still tries to push her plan forward, telling her son Aemond to immediately set out for Harrenhal. Now, what transpires between Alicent and Aemond in this episode was highly uncomfortable to watch, but the showrunners have actually been setting this up for a long time, throughout his entire life. The one thing Aemond desperately lacked was motherly love. This is why in Season 2, we constantly saw him seeking comfort in the brothels of King's Landing. On top of that, Alicent pushing Aemond to leave for Harrenhal clearly shows that she has completely given up hope on both of her sons. She has already promised Aegon's head to Rhaenyra, but now, Aegon's disappearance makes it look like she has betrayed Rhaenyra. The devastating consequences of this misunderstanding are something we will witness in the upcoming episodes. Next, the sea snake, Corlys Velaryon, is shown alongside his first mate and his son, maintaining the blockade of the Gullet. Throughout last season, we saw how the Velaryon blockade of the Gullet caused massive starvation in King's Landing, and how Tyrion Lannister even promised the stepstones to the Triarchy. just to get them to break this blockade. So, the Gullet is extremely critical. Meanwhile, war has officially broken out in the Riverlands. We see Daemon Targaryen leading his Riverlands army in the Battle of the Red Fork, absolutely decimating the Lannister forces. Defeating the Rivermen on their own turf is no easy task, and they have completely crushed the Lannister Lions, whom we saw Jason Lannister marching toward Harrenhal last season. Amidst all this, some Lannister soldiers have fled, but their leader, the Lord of Casterly Rock, Jason Lannister, could not save himself from the Winter Wolves of the North, who have allied with Daemon, and are fully prepared to lay down their lives for the Dragon Queen. When it comes to the battlefield, defeating Daemon Targaryen is almost impossible. Before Rhaenyra, during the peaceful reign of King Viserys, Daemon was still honing his battle experience by fighting in the Stepstones. His grip on King's Landing remains incredibly strong, as we saw in the Blood and Cheese episode, proving that the Goldcloaks are still fiercely loyal to him. Plus, Daemon's dragon, Caraxes, was battle-tested long before Daemon even claimed him. Caraxes secured victory for the Targaryens in the Fourth Dornish War, back when he was ridden by Daemon's uncle, Aemond, and now with the addition of the fierce Northern Winter Wolves, this war has become exponentially more brutal. On the other side, Criston Cole and Gwaine Hightower are marching toward Harrenhal, while Cole's men are committing horrific atrocities against the women in the surrounding villages. Gwaine tries to reason with Cole, demanding that they punish the men responsible, but Criston Cole is completely dead inside. He refuses to question his men's cruelty, because in his mind nothing matters anymore, since they are all going to die anyway. Cole's moral decay truly began after the death of Viserys, when he brutally murdered Lord Beesbury during the small council meeting. On top of that, witnessing the devastating clash of dragons at Rook's Rest has completely convinced him that they will not survive this war. But moments of crisis are exactly when a man's principles are truly tested, and Criston Cole has failed that test miserably. In the season finale, Alicent had already warned Rhaenyra that Aemond would be leaving for Harrenhal. To lay an ambush for Aemond, Rhaenyra has stationed her new dragon seeds and their dragons near Harrenhal, while waiting for Vhagar. Ulf shares his life struggles and mentions an Associ priest whom he calls a Red Priest. As we know, Red Priests are followers of the Lord of Light, and we have already met one of them in Game of Thrones. Melisandre was a Red Priestess, and we know that Red Priests have a habit of immediately telling anyone with Targaryen blood that they are born for a grand purpose. Now, Ulf, Hugh, and Adam are waiting in the forest near Harrenhal, preparing to ambush Vhagar. But the fear of Vhagar looms heavy over these new riders, because Vhagar has already slain 2 dragons, technically 3, since she was also responsible for the near-fatal state of Aegon in Sunfire. Moreover, Ulf's comment about not wanting to be a knight, but wanting a castle instead, is not just a casual remark. Think about it. These men haven't even fought a real dragon battle yet, and they are already consumed by the sheer arrogance of holding power over dragons. And pride is a highly dangerous thing. Fortunately, the Eerie woods of Harrenhal quickly put Ulf's arrogance in check.
The exact same Harrenhal that broke Daemon's sanity last season is now tormenting these new riders.
Deep in the woods, Hugh and Adam encounter a green man, the same mysterious figure Daemon saw near the weirwood tree. The green men are the sacred guardians of the Isle of Faces, a holy place located in the center of the God's Eye Lake. This is why they watch over the surrounding lands, so Adam and Hugh see the green man here, and Ulf is literally terrified out of his mind. Just then, Alice Rivers appears before them to deliver a chilling warning that they are missing the battle. Now, Alice is pointing out exactly what book readers have been screaming. In the books, the Battle of the Gullet did not just involve Jace and Baela, but also Adam, Hugh, Nettles, and Ulf alongside their dragons. So, when will these riders finally join the fight? Regardless, if you enjoyed Alice's mysterious storyline last season, you are going to find her arc even more captivating this season. On the other hand, from King's Landing, Alicent has sent a letter in Aemond's name to her cousin, Aemond Hightower, ordering them to halt and wait for Aemond. But Aemond inspects the broken seal and immediately suspects that this was not written by Aemond. And wait, is that Alicent's youngest son in the background, Daemon Targaryen? He looks remarkably like young Aegon and Aemond did back in Season 1. Keep in mind, he is going to be an incredibly crucial character this season. The identity of his actor was kept secret for an exceptionally long time. Returning to Alicent in King's Landing, Helena reveals to her the truth behind Aemond's fear. She explains that, as a child, Aemond was terrified, but after claiming Vhagar, he forgot that fear. And now he is afraid once again. This is a brilliant insight, and it adds a profound new dimension to Aemond's character arc, which will play a massive role in his future storyline. Later, Alicent uses this knowledge on Aemond, pretending to give him the courage and support he has desperately craved his entire life. However, this further proves that Alicent is willing to go to any length, even risking her son's life, which actually makes sense, since her sons care about nothing but bloody war. Meanwhile, near the Gullet, we see Corlys sharing a drink from Ib with his son. Corlys has sailed the known world, and is widely celebrated as the greatest seafarer in the Seven Kingdoms. So, keeping a rare beverage from Ib is nothing unusual for him, as he harbors far more unique treasures in his seat of high tide. Corlys reveals Rhaenyra's letter to his unacknowledged son, Alan. The slow process of mending their relationship, which began at the end of last season, is still ongoing. Plus, Alan makes a very valid point. How could Aemond just abandon King's Landing? And deep down, Corlys knows he is right. Suddenly, the massive fleet of the Triarchy arrives, led by Commander Sharako Lohar, whom Tywin Lannister recruited. This development is going to make Alicent look like a massive liar in Rhaenyra's eyes. Because while Alicent was inviting her to King's Landing, her faction simultaneously launched a devastating surprise attack on the Gullet. In reality, Alicent has absolutely no idea about this because Aemond discussed this plan in his small council only after throwing Alicent out. This means Alicent doesn't even know that Aemond has ordered Otto Hightower's recall. On the Triarchy flagship, Sharako Lohar is demonstrating her strategic cunning, while Tywin Lannister urges an immediate attack on Dragonstone. Lohar insists on striking Corlys's seat, High Tide. She argues that destroying his home will break Corlys far more than any sea battle ever could. And, as we know, High Tide is dearer to Corlys than life itself, meaning Lohar's logic is terrifyingly sound. However, Lohar is not here out of loyalty to the Green. She is fighting a deeply personal war. Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake, has been clashing with the Triarchy for 20 years, ever since he teamed up with Daemon to kill Kragas Drahar, breaking the Triarchy's hold on the Stepstones, and now Lohar has arrived to claim her long-awaited vengeance. Back on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra receives word of the sudden battle in the Gullet. This proves her council's fears that she was flat-out lied to. This development doesn't just make Alicent look malicious, it also paints Rhaenyra as dangerously naive in front of her lords. Consequently, Jacaerys orders Rhaenyra to be confined to her chambers, further undermining her authority. Remember how Alicent lost her grip on the Greens last season, even being thrown out of the council? Now, we see a parallel development on the black side, a ruling queen essentially imprisoned by her own Queen's Guard. This makes Rhaenyra look incredibly weak. Moreover, Jace's reckless eagerness to charge headfirst into battle is exactly the kind of bloodlust Alicent and Rhaenyra feared from the start. Back in their childhood, in the very beginning of Season 1, they used to discuss how some men only crave blood, war and violence. And slowly, that tragic truth is being proven right as Jace, despite having zero real battle experience, dives recklessly into the Battle of the Gullet alongside Baelor. Let's be clear. The Triarchy forces in the Gullet are not fools. They didn't just sail in blind, despite the terrifying threat of dragons. They came heavily prepared. 20 years ago, they successfully held their own against Daemon on Caraxes and Laenor on Seasmoke in the War for the Stepstones. By comparison, Jace's dragon, Vermax, and Baelor's dragon, Moondancer, are much smaller. Dealing with them is child's play for the veteran Triarchy fleet. When Vermax was momentarily pinned down, Jace should have realized that he was in far more danger than the Triarchy ships. But the true masterclass in this battle was delivered by Corlys Velaryon. He skillfully maneuvers his flagship through a dangerously narrow channel, successfully trapping a portion of Lohar's fleet. This is exactly why they call him the Sea Snake. That is pure seasoned experience. Unfortunately, Rhaena demonstrates the exact opposite with her newly claimed dragon, Sheepstealer. Look, you don't go drag racing the very first day you learn to drive, but that is exactly what Rhaena does here. She assumed that because she managed to fly Sheepstealer from the Vale to Dragonstone, she could easily command him in the heat of battle. There is a reason he is called a wild dragon in his chaotic fury. Sheepstealer completely loses the ability to tell friend from foe, unleashing a torrent of fire and burning everyone alive. Obviously, this is not how it happened in the books. The book mentions that Sheepstealer and his rider, Nettles, did participate in this battle, and she was deeply traumatized by the carnage. Since Fire and Blood is written from the biased perspectives of secondary historical accounts, who really knows which version makes more sense? But Rhaenyra's presence on Sheepstealer has already cost the Blacks a devastatingly high price. This tragic moment breathes new life into Viserys' famous warning from Season 1. The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. We saw the terrifying proof of this in the Season 1 finale when Vhagar refused to listen to Aemond's desperate cries to stop. Similarly, Lucerys begged his dragon, Arax, not to attack, but his commands were ignored. And here, Sheepstealer completely ignores Rhaenyra's commands. But Viserys' words carry an even deeper truth. The great houses of Westeros fear the Targaryens because of their dragons, but that does not mean dragons should be deployed to resolve every single conflict. Even Aegon the Conqueror, during his conquest of Westeros, lost his beloved sister, Rhaenys, and her dragon, Meraxes, in Dawn. This is a stark reminder that possessing dragons is never a guarantee of victory. This is the exact lesson Rhaenyra was trying to teach throughout the previous season. Having dragons doesn't mean you simply fly them in and solve all your problems, because when the war is over, you still need surviving dragons to secure your peace. We will discuss Sheepstealer's rampage further. But first, let's return to Corlys versus Lohar. Lohar cleverly distracts Corlys, using the rest of her ships to launch a devastating attack on his castle, High Tide, burning it to the ground. Corlys is completely devastated, watching his legacy go up in flames. Suddenly, Lohar's flagship slams directly into Corlys's vessel and a brutal, chaotic duel begins. You might be wondering, why does the weapon in Corlys's hand look so familiar? That is a Dothraki arak. For a man who has sailed to the farthest reaches of the world, it makes perfect sense that his weapon is highly exotic. Lohar has arrived to claim her vengeance. Corlys is forced to watch his legacy burn, yet he and Alan must still defend the blockade and protect Dragonstone now. Pay close attention to the title of this episode, Salty Sea, Fire and Blood. The Salty Sea represents Corlys and his son, Alan, with Alan proving that he possesses the exact same fire and fierce determination as his legendary father. Meanwhile, Fire and Blood is unleashed across this entire chaotic battle. But so many devastating events happen at once. Lohar is killed while fighting Alan, and Corlys has gone completely missing. This is a massive deviation from the books, where Lohar survives the battle and sails back to Essos. The showrunners have taken a completely different route, and in this battle, the ones who lose the most are Corlys and Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra's devastating loss is entirely the fault of Sheepstealer. It was Sheepstealer who attacked Jace's dragon, Vermac, and Baela's dragon, Moondancer. In the midst of this chaotic clash, Jace desperately tries to maneuver Vermax away, but a massive bolt from a scorpion weapon pierces Vermax's neck. The wounded dragon plunges into the dark sea. Jace manages to struggle free and surface, only to be brutally shot down by Myrish archers. I must say, this is the most heartbreakingly accurate depiction of Jace's death. The way the background music abruptly cuts out makes the atmosphere incredibly chilling. This is exactly how almost every book reader imagined this tragic scene playing out. It was exceptionally dark, especially knowing that by the end of this episode, the Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the Iron Throne is dead. This is an absolutely devastating blow for Rhaenyra. First, she lost Lucerys, and now Jacaerys. Of all his brothers, only Joffrey Velaryon remains, along with Rhaenyra's younger children with Daemon, Aegon, and Viserys. What becomes of them remains to be seen, because in the books they should have been present during this battle. By the way, I highly recommend reading George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, as it will greatly enhance your viewing experience in our discussions. Honestly, this episode felt like a full-scale cinematic movie, its massive runtime and monumental events.